Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. And it's a cold ass Monday too. Um, yep, getting a glimpse of what winter's gonna be like, and I'm prepared for it. So, so yesterday, yeah, I did that video about how everything is connected, and I used the analogy that the world is like the human, or the human is like the world, and every single person is like a cell. Okay. And so if you look at your whole family, it's all a bunch of cells. Hey, I'm Kari. And so your family is a bunch of cells. And then there are certain people in the family that hang out together. And so you can look and see who are the like-minded people in the family. And then you can characterize whatever you want to characterize. Some are cancerous, some are more like into other things. And then you see then that why it is that there's cancer clusters, why it is there's rust on a car, why it is there is different groups out there on Facebook. Okay. And so when I did that example of this, as far as the human, now I know this is a really bad picture of a human, but a human is the world, it's a representative of the world. Every cell in the body is like every single person in this world. And then you see, then there's cancers in certain people. And what are those cancers? Well, they're weak cells. So you can have weak cells and strong cells, because why isn't this person totally, completely overridden by the cancer right now? Because she has a relatively strong body. So there's only one cancer cluster in her breast. However, if she doesn't go and recognize that there is a cancer cluster in her breast early, she doesn't see the indicators, then the rest of the body will be taken down. The cancer clusters will then infect other systems. So you figure out with people in our society, why is it that we can live next to people who are cancerous and who are really negative and who are really yucky? And or why people who we can live next to them and still survive, and why we can actually even be married to somebody who may have a different health regimen or a different idea about stuff, but you see indicators that they're going a different direction than you, but that's okay, because you're still aligned, relatively aligned right now. And so that's why you can have a strong cell. Thanks, Kevin. That's why you can have a strong cell and a weak cell next to each other, and then you can see who it is that controls a relationship, or you can see that both of them are relatively strong, but then you can see indicators that one's going to become weaker as time progresses. So that's kind of like the human body with all the different cells, the strong cells and the weak cells. And so that's why I say that humanity will never go extinct and the earth will never die. Okay. And then I'm looking at all these fires in California, and it's been very expensive living in California. When I left California, it was expensive. It's very highly competitive. It was right every single time that I was trying to find a job during my 20s, is either downturn of the economy. So it's either like the upsurge of the tech industry. And so it wasn't even a downturn. It was the upsurge of the tech industry. And they were pricing everybody out of the market as far as rent. So when I was living in Walnut Creek, California, and that was the height of the tech market, the tech boom, I mean, it was like the rents were double and tripling. It was just insane. And then it actually was easy. I was making good money in the early 2001, like really good money. Because I mean, I was like an admin assistant for this one construction company, construction, right? The real estate boom. And I was making $30,000 a year, which isn't a lot, but for a little admin job at that time in 2001, that was a lot. Now, $30,000 a year in California is like nothing, okay? But back then it was a lot for me. And then like in 2008, as soon as I got into the 2007, 2008, well, 2005 was a pretty good time. Credit was easy. And then 2008 was then the whole downturn again, where then you had all of the whole mortgage crisis. And that's when Countrywide was going crazy. And so when you see like an upsurge of so much money, so easy to get, you don't have to work for anything, and it's so easy. And that's kind of what it's like when you're young. Everything is easy. Hey, John, everything is easy. You're ripping and running, drinking and traveling and doing all this stuff. And if you don't see the indicators that there's going to be a cycle, if you're not constantly reinforcing and looking for indicators on when to move in and when to move out type of thing in whatever industry or real estate or whatever, then you're going to end up being part of the downturn of the body and the economy. Okay. And so yeah, so that's what happened back then. Was the money was so easy and flowing, and corruption was happening, of course. But when you can get a mortgage with basically no job, no proof of income, or no proof of really good that you can afford it, and you're doing like an adjustable rate mortgage, where right now the interest rates are really good, but you can't predict the future. But you're going to get an ARM type of mortgage, and you don't have all the substantiation that you can afford those fluctuations. It was a bubble waiting to burst. That makes sense. And it's no different with youth and with growing up in just in the world. You know, you take advantage of how easy things are, but then there is a cycle if you're not constantly reinforcing your body and looking for the indicators. And that is what's going on right now in our society when it comes to cancer, disease, and chronic illness, is that people are not seeing the indicators, and they're getting caught up in the downturn of the economy of their body. And then now it's fucking expensive to try to buy themselves out of that situation, or it's so hard to now overcome those weaknesses and to strengthen the body. So right now I'm watching California going through that same issue. Now, right now there's conspiracy world saying that, yes, okay, there is a restructuring going on all over the America, okay, but it seems to hit obviously California the hardest because of the fact of how many people live there, how desirable it is to live there. And then of course, with the weather and the fires and the people and all of that, it's like a recipe for disaster. And there are indicators right now there are indicators of fire season, whether it's been contrived because they're trying to clear out areas so they can build a high-speed rail and restructure California, or if it's actual climate change. Whatever belief system you hold, I don't care what it is, the indicators are there, okay? And so I'm looking at, like I was talking to my husband this morning on his way to work, and I'm just saying, you know, as far as the economy, okay, what would take economy to make it more expensive? What would make it cheaper? And I'm looking at just basic economics 101. When you have a whole lot of people who get in early, we'll have a few people getting in early when a lot of inventory, it's easy pickings, relatively cheap. When you have a whole lot of people and the inventory isn't there, then it justifies then the mortgage or the market to then up the prices, because now they can, because they see that now your property is desirable and there's not a lot of inventory, and so then people start having a price war. Or they try to lower it, but then not really lower. They try to, like, I guess, undercut each other, but still, but then you really don't undercut each other. I mean, when you think about it, well, you try to maybe buy $1 million or something like that, right? But you still have a whole lot of people trying to move into an area that's more desirable. So just like right now in California, there are probably geographically desirable areas that if you get in early and you buy early, and they're not in the fire danger areas where all this stuff is going on, you can then get out of the danger and you can get away from having such high expensive insurance. Because when you think about it, anytime you have like a dangerous area like earthquakes and fires, the insurance companies, they can't afford to take those hits, and so they either don't insure you or they raise your insurance. And even the people that are in that area that have the same insurance company, they're going to see their rates go double, triple, and quadruple, because somebody has to make up for all of the payouts that's going on as far as all the different fires. And so then you see that, you know, then you look at just what all the different things that are affiliated with a household. So you just do a little, like you do a little circle, and then you put out little sticks out here, and you see what's affected. The school system's affected, the hospitals, all the department stores, the supermarkets, everything, whatever, you know, a family goes and buys, the internet, all of that, everything gets affected, especially when you're in a high fire danger area, especially when right now you're seeing a failing infrastructure in the PG&E areas. So it's easier just to burn it down, right, than it is to try to restructure with so many people and all of their stuff. And so that right there kind of like I'm thinking of Mount St. Helens, because Mount St. Helens came back after that eruption, and then Chernobyl's coming back after that accident. Okay, so the Earth will never die. There's going to be a restructuring. I mean, when you look at the past and the fluctuations of just all the different extinction events or the rise and fall of different civilizations, that's no different than in America. You're seeing the rise and fall of different like mini civilizations. Because yeah, people are like all over the place. They're doing whatever they do. They're dying. And so when you're dying and you're making bad choices, it's a ripple effect. Okay? And so at some point there's going to be a reset, and we're already seeing indicators of resets. And if you're not really paying attention, you're going to be caught up in the reset. And there's only two choices in life or death, right? And nothing is wrong with either of them, because you have to have death in order to have life. But do you want to be the one to die? Okay. And so that's what it comes down to. So you have to see indicators. So like in the body, when you see indicators of the body degrading, you pay attention. If not, you're going to burn up in a fire. California is like inflammation right now. Literally, pardon the pun. People in California, they don't see those signs, those indicators. They're going to burn up with the rest of the people that don't listen to their bodies or listen to the indicators out there. Okay? And so indicators make you act early. You get in early, and either you make money or you save money. So either you get in early and you get into another area where now you can kind of relax and you can do your job, and your job is not located in a dangerous area, and you're good and your family's good. Yes, you're in a human habitation zone, but it's better. But all over California is a human habitation zone when you think about where they're kind of moving people. Because, I can go into the whole conspiracy world and buy into the direct energy weapons and say, okay, they're using Star Wars to go and create these fires in the areas that they want to go and clear out for the high-speed rails. Okay, fine. So there's a law of intention, and then there's natural law. Maybe climate is changing. Hell, I don't know. Maybe, we do have the ability to change the weather and control it. But like with anything, when you manipulate Mother Nature, it is a ripple effect. It doesn't always go as planned. Maybe temporarily you do an upset of homeostasis, but then you affect other things. No different than when you go in and take out organs, you go in and put in stem cells. It's going to affect every other system. It's not just going to be like, okay, we're going to do this one change and it's going to stay like that forever. No, everything is connected. You take one person out of a group who really who made an impact in a group, everyone gets affected by either the new person or taking out a key person or even a non-key person. Okay, so who knows what the real deal is going on in California, but we'll know in 2050 when they have everything built up, and then you see what the prices are like in California. Because yeah, they'll probably, like right now there's like 40 million people in California. 40 million, that's 40 million cells. How many of those cells are cancerous? How many of those cells are very strong? And then, for you to live in an area like California, you have to be you have to be rich. So you have to be strong to live in California. The weak are going to get priced out. Okay, but then in Ohio, a place like Ohio, where it's like you get the 4 seasons, and they're extreme. You get the 4 seasons, but it's not super desirable. However, you better have a strong body to be able to handle the different climate changes, to be able to adapt every season. Okay, so even like myself and my dog, who was relatively healed and sealed, we both had to go through an adaptation change from summer to fall. And on a weaker person, they would be so sick. And you see people, that's why flu season happens, because weak people have to then try to adjust to new information, new environments, new climate, and they react. And so that's why people leave Ohio to go to Florida, because Florida is now the place where everyone goes where they can't handle the extreme weather of Ohio, of the Northeast. And so then, so people who are strong can actually live in a place like the Northeast, like Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Okay, because they have a strong body. And then in Ohio, which is, I mean, the Northeast, like New York and New Hampshire and Pennsylvania. I mean, there's, well, I'll say Pennsylvania, but like New York, it's very expensive to live in New York, obviously. And all like the New England states, probably very expensive. I mean, I don't know for sure because I haven't, checked out the cost of living in New Hampshire, but I'm sure just, those areas are expensive to live in, but you have to be strong as well as rich. Okay, so you got to have both. California, you can be weak but be rich, but how long can you really be rich being weak? I mean, it's eventually you're not gonna see the indicators, and you'll be, you won't survive because there's just so much going on, or you'll only survive for so long. Because the baby boomers that, my parents' generation, or not my parents' generation is actually the silent generation, I think. And then the baby boomers is like so they're kind of handling California, but they're already on their way out the door. Okay, so it's the millennials and all the next generation after that, the X generation, which they're kind of handling it, but they're not handling it very well. They're still job hopping and going from here and there and dealing with cancer and so we're seeing now the changes in the generations, how they're handling the changes in the environment. And so indicators in the economy, indicators in your body, if you can see the indicators in your body, you can see indicators in the economy and figure out where to get in early. So you can save money and make money, save minerals and make minerals. Everything is connected. And so I'm thinking like, everything is connected. Not to say that I'm trying to go and like, you have to make money you have to have money to make money. However, it's not all about the dollars, your ability to produce and your ability to adapt to your conditions on a continuous basis, because there's always a balance. Do you make too much money? There's an imbalance. You make too little money, there's an imbalance. You have too many minerals, there's an imbalance. Too little minerals, there's an imbalance. So there is a specific there's a happy medium somewhere, okay? And it's finding that balance. It's finding the happy medium, and that's what we're doing with the whole J juice. But we have to understand from the micro level all the way to the macro level. So the human body is no different than the economy and civilization and the different infrastructure, because every human body makes up the government, makes up the infrastructure, makes up your utility companies, everything. And then who's in charge and what is going on with their body that they're making these type of decisions, and why companies rise and fall and why civilizations rise and fall, because you see why bodies rise and fall. So if you understand your body, you'll understand the economy, the civilizations, you'll understand the government, you'll understand everything. And then you start seeing indicators, and then you act accordingly. You get out when you need to get out. You get in early when you need to get in early. And your gut knows, even though you can't really put it all together, but what we're doing now is we're putting it all together. We're seeing all the different contexts that they're not really compartmentalized, but people have them compartmentalized because that's how they've been trained to think in our society. But every single context is just a representation of something that you really know that you've specialized in. So if you have a specialization in, let's say you have a medical degree, you have a law degree, you're a teacher, doctor, lawyer, I don't know, a librarian, every single science behind all of your degrees and the science behind all of your industries are all related to the human body. It just has different names. You need law and order, you need jargon, you need specific, rules and things. I mean, to make up a successful organization, a successful life. I mean, your family is like this, like your body, okay? People that look at terror cells or like cancer cells. Rust is cancer. When my husband was talking to his friend about rust in a truck, and when they see rust like in the floorboards of the truck, they're talking about like what they would do, and he says, yeah, well, I got to go, because what I got to do with this truck is I got to actually take out the floorboard, cut out the rust. I'm like cutting out cancer, taking out an organ. Yeah, and then taking a sheet of metal, and then they weld it. Oh, okay. And then it basically gives them a new floorboard, and then that rust doesn't then infect the rest of the truck, because that's what rust does. I mean, rust in Ohio is like is cancer to any of the automobiles, okay? Because all the salt from the ice and the snow during the wintertime that the utility companies put on the ground to kill all the ice, and then we're driving on it, you see rust happen on the floorboards and the sides of the truck. And so for someone who has a lot of money, will go and cut out the rust and then put in and weld in more metal to then redo the truck so the rust doesn't spread. Well, it's the same thing with the body. If you don't see the indicators, what are the indicators of cancer in a body? When you're always going to the hospital, when you're always on prescription drugs, when you're always not paying attention to the imbalances of your body to figure out what you have to do, even if you don't do the Jilly Juice, what changes are you making to meet the imbalances of your body, to balance it out at least superficially, because maybe you're not ready to adopt Jilly Juice. So are you making changes, even simple changes in your life, so that way you don't have the cancer spread so much or have your issues become worse and worse and worse? Because they're, if you don't pay attention to the indicators, guess what? Your cancer, disease, and chronic illness is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse as each year and each day progresses. The more you ignore the indicators, the more you ignore the red flags, then you're going to be caught up in then the restructuring of your body, and you are not going to come out, your life is not going to be in favor. I mean, you're going to end up on the death side of it, because there's two absolutes, life and death. Okay? And so there's indicators in the economy, there's indicators in your body, there's indicators in everything. And if you don't recognize them, then you're going to be like shocked and awed if you're not preparing for them, being proactive with the right chemistry. Okay, which means that you learn how to take in new information. When someone adapts to a new situation, they got to learn how to then read the room, read the information, and then some will fight against it if it actually if they think it harms them, which some people will think that good stuff harms them because of how they characterize pain or how they characterize specific symptoms. But any symptom is an opposite of homeostasis, the body trying to adapt, okay? So, you'll make a choice. People will make choices. And doesn't mean it's right or wrong if the indicators are there that doesn't align with your biochemistry. And doesn't mean that what you think is correct or incorrect. It's just your biochemistry. Now you have to understand what about the biochemistry that you have that makes you attract or repel certain things, and then what's your ultimate goal in the future. So right now people are just thinking of the moment, and their thought process is only about this far. They can't think beyond that. And so they don't really have an ultimate goal for their life. They think they're going to die someday, or if they're on the Jilly Juice, they have the ability to maybe potentially even live indefinitely. But if you're not even thinking of that because you haven't even adopted that mindset, then you're always going to be reacting to somebody introducing information, and you're going to be repelled no matter what. So those that have a mindset that they're going to die someday, and if you're not a doctor, or if you're not a nurse, or if you're not in the medical field, that you have absolutely nothing to say, so then guess what? You're going to always make the choices based upon the death trajectory. It's not going to matter what the hell you do. You can listen to indicators, not listen to indicators, because every single choice you make is going to be on that death trajectory no matter what. And so what Jilly Juice is giving you guys is the opportunity to think in a different way and to look at indicators in a different way. So that way you're not automatically repelling and rejecting new information. Okay, so all I did was put out an idea on Dr. Phil to now have you think, hey, is there a possibility we could live indefinitely? Do we have to die from cancer, disease, and chronic illness? But that would take a strong person to know how to adapt to new information. And they don't have to take it on right away and do it right away, but at least it has them consider it as a possibility. And then with that becomes behavioral changes. And then understanding what symptoms are, what pain is, and then they see a change. Okay? So that's the whole thing of upset of homeostasis and strong body versus weak body. There's a lot of weak bodies out there that will reject my information. And guess what? They're going to have a very predictable outcome. There's a lot of people out there in California who are going to ignore the indicators. They see fires everywhere every season, and they're turning off the power for people, and they're still going to stay in California. They're still going to think about just staying. Yeah, and they're going to think that, oh yeah, it's going to be different next year, or put more money into more conservation, or who knows what they're going to do to remedy a situation, but it's only temporary. And so people are just being bled dry in California because they're not looking at the indicators. No different than all of you who are going in and out of the hospital being bled dry, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's just going to be different. I'll go to the hospital and they'll shoot me up with all these different drugs and electrolytes and whatever, and I'll be stabilized. I'll go back home, and then guess what? It's only a matter of time you're back in that hospital again because you kept ignoring the indicators. No different than those in California that see this pattern, but they keep ignoring it. And they keep wanting to stay there. Okay, I get it. I mean, it's good. But then you move to an area, which is what I think the intention is. There are geographically desirable areas that they want people to move into. So that way, you know, if there's failing infrastructure, which could be all by design. I mean, I could say this is a conspiracy, but it could be. You never know because there's a lot of intention. And how do you move large amounts of people without it turning into like a major cluster F? Well, the weather is a way to move people, okay? Now I'm coming from a conspiracy world point of view, but it doesn't mean it's for bad, because we do need a restructuring, just like the body needs restructuring. We're already seeing, all of you guys are seeing your cancer, disease, and chronic illness come up earlier and earlier. Your kids are you're seeing indicators in your children because they've inherited your genes that have the cancer, disease, and chronic illness. So you already know. So if they're already seeing the indicators, then yeah, I mean, then you got to pay attention. If not, then you're going to be caught up in the autophagy process, the peptosis, which is basically the body purging or the system purging out people who are not paying attention. Okay, so is there a conspiracy of them doing it? Potentially, but California and the world needs a restructuring. Too much cancer out there. Too many people who are making horrible choices for themselves and their children. Too many people who are committing crimes. We have a lot of predators out there and a lot of victims. Okay, so there's got to be there's got to be changes. And if you don't see the indicators, you're going to then be purged out in some way. And so when it really comes down to it, the strong will survive in our society. The strong see the indicators early and they act accordingly. And that's no different in the economy, and that's no different in the human body. And, you know, once you recognize it, then you start doing the research to then do the behavioral changes so you understand what to expect. No different than when you go in, you realize that your future really isn't in California. Because you're studying the indicators, and even though, yeah, you're in an area that's, I mean, I have friends that are like in Sacramento. So people from the Bay Area, it's so expensive moving to Sacramento. Well, you take all the same people, and now you've congested and you've put more pressure on a system and an infrastructure. Human civilization is not a cancer on the planet, Omkari. That is not, no, it's not a cancer. It's it's the weak people. It's not, because it's an imbalance. Humans are a great steward of the environment if they are strong. It's the weak people, Omkari. And it's people that talk about this way, about human civilization is a cancer. No, it's not. Humans are actually a very smart people, but we have weak bodies. You have to differentiate between the two, Omkari. Weak versus strong. And that is a weak point of view. I'm going to let you know that. When you say that humans are a cancer, you're basically saying that you're a cancer on this planet. Is that your intention, is to basically call yourself a cancer? Or do you want to give people the option to be strong or to be weak? And the ones that are weak will purge out anyways, no matter what. Or you want to make a change and be strong. We are giving people the option now. They're not now left to be just like, okay, I'm just left with whatever God told me to do. No, now you have an option. Some people aren't strong enough. Doesn't mean that they're bad. It's that they're not strong enough, just like a cell. If a cell isn't strong enough to handle the environment, and if it's weak, the body's going to purge it out. Anyway, it's called either autophagy or it's called apoptosis. It's just a natural fluctuation. It's a natural purging of things that are weak. So humans, so can you remove that comment, Kari, or correct yourself and edit it? Please. Because humans are not a cancer. I'm not a cancer. You're basically insulting me, Kari. The person who is the ultimate biohacker you just insulted. When you have that thought process, humans are a cancer, then you're calling yourself a cancer, and then you're basically feeding into the death trajectory of yourself and everybody else. And that is cancerous, and that is infectious. That thought process infects people into basically on a death trajectory. Human civilization is not a cancer. It's that we have weak people who don't understand how their body works or how to live symbiotically, and now we have the ability to understand. And we're giving every single person the opportunity to understand this information so they can make a choice. And if they don't make the choice in this area, that's fine. Mother Nature will take care of it. It's like saying that plants are a cancer. It's like saying poison oak is a cancer on this planet. Poison oak has a role. Everything here on this planet has a role. There'll be an upset homeostasis for a minute when there's new information or if there's an imbalance. Doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just there is an imbalance and it needs to be corrected, and there will be corrections. I will delete that comment because you're not even acknowledging what I'm saying. I don't know, did you just disappear after that or what? Can you at least acknowledge that you heard what I'm saying? Like that with another comment. Yes, I want to delete that comment. Humans are not a cancer. Weak cells are a cancer. Okay. I deleted it, Kari. I didn't even want it on there. Because we have to think in a very different way. When you can have strong cells and weak cells, so this is a picture of the blue is weak cells and the black are strong cells. If the black that are strong cells can really infect the weak cells with nutrition and a different outlook and hope and positivity, but not always positivity, boundaries, okay? Because you need to have a certain amount of negative cells in your body to adapt to the changes. It's when something is weak where it won't adapt, and that's when you have cancer take over because they can't seem to adapt. They're not strengthening their body, okay? So we need to have weak and strong so we see the difference, and then, you know, and weak and strong is all relative to your perception. But no matter what, if your end result is to live an indefinite life, then you will need to have a certain amount of negative cells to then repel the cancerous cells. Okay, because that's why there is the antibodies that will kill the cancerous cells or the things that cause imbalances. Antibodies kill, but that's a good kill because it keeps you alive. It keeps the balance of the body. Okay, so so we have to teach humans that we need to have more good cells than bad cells in our body. But with how weak our humans are out there, you can tell someone till they're blue in the face that they are ignoring the indicators, that they're on a death trajectory. When you see your sister and your mom and your dad all die from cancer, and you're still practicing the same practices, you're doing the same thing that they did, and you're adopting the same lifestyle that they've adopted, what do you think is your outcome? And then you try to fight it, but then that's being hypocritical. You're fighting it with the same stuff that they're fighting it with, and they've already lost the fight. And basically, you'll lose the fight too. Right. Thank you, Omkari. All right. So yeah. But I appreciate I mean I hear what you're saying. I get it, because when you take cancer clusters and you put them together, it's but that's just a cancer cluster, but that doesn't say all humans. It's just a certain amount of humans that are a cancer on this earth. And maybe we say the weak humans, but then I can see what you're saying, where human is like, you know, a cancer on like human civilization is cancer, because right now human civilization has been weak for hundreds and thousands and millions of years. Okay, so so you are correct in a lot of ways, but now we're changing it. Now we're changing it. So I'm going to see your point of view, that totally reacting and like going, oh my God. But I mean, I hear that all the time, and I cringe, because I'm not a cancer. I reversed all my issues, so I know I'm not a cancer. I mean, when there's less people with weaknesses and more strong people making the right choices, you're going to have less in numbers no matter what. The reason why we have so many people is because reproduction comes from glitching bodies. Okay? So when you have weak people create cancer, because they keep reproducing on bodies that are weak, and the children become weak, and they make bad choices down the road, and they have weak bodies, and then they justify the medical system, the educational system, the hospice system, all the police force, the fire department. All these different agencies are catering to the weaknesses of our society. Okay? That's what's the cancer, is that we're catering to the weak people of our society. Imagine if only the strong were here. We wouldn't have all of these needs for these different agencies and resources and all this different stuff, because we'd be relatively sufficient. When you take somebody, let's say like me, I don't need that much. I wear the same clothes all the time. I don't buy new clothes. I don't shop every year. I don't even need to buy new furniture that much. I buy a very small amount of food. Okay, I don't buy that much food. I buy enough food for my husband and me. It's, you know, I mean, lately I haven't even been using any of the law enforcement at all, except to send emails to the FBI on stupid people that do stuff. But when you get strong people living in a society, they're not going to be justifying the amount of resources that we have. And so what that does is then, yes, that is like a cancer. Yes, the weak sheeple. That word sheeple, oh my God. That's our conspiracy world. But and then she goes, Christ, essentially the body has fevers to purge out weak cells. Cancer exists in all bodies. The fires. Yeah, I mean, it's not that cancer exists. It's cancer is when when viruses are taking over. Okay, on a weak body. So I don't have cancer in my body. I have viruses in my body that if they detect cancer, it means I have a weakness. See, cancer equals viruses on a weak body. That's what cancer is. So cancer doesn't exist in all bodies, because not all bodies are weak. My body is pretty strong, and I don't have any cancer. But how would I detect that? Well, they can do a cancer test and see, but what would the reasoning mean? Why do I even get a cancer test? Well, I wait for something to come. Well, no, I don't need to wait for something to come to surface, then go to get a test, because I'm taking in the right chemistry. So, I mean, I believe me, I hear what you're saying, because all of what you said has been said in the mainstream and the alternative mainstream. You're still kind of in the mainstream, alternative mainstream, Omkari. The word sheeple, which is a conspiracy world where it degrades somebody else. They're not a sheeple. It's just people who are stuck in a loop, and you were there too until you woke up in some way. Okay? And so cancer is in every body. Cancer, because it's not in my body. Cancer isn't in Kevin's body. Okay? I mean, what determines cancer? When you go get a test and they tell you you're in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. But viruses exist everywhere. You can't get away from viruses. That's the whole point of the whole J juice. Understand that viruses are not the enemy. They're only enemies on weak bodies. So weak bodies are everywhere, but now we're strengthening, we're reinforming people of with new information. Same information, different context. Okay? And now we're giving people the choice. Okay, I'm going. Now we're giving people the choice. Some will recognize the indicators in their body, and they'll look at the J juice and study the information, understand that pain is healing. And others will know that J juice exists, understand it, but they don't have the strength to apply it. And that's what I recognize, even in my JJ crowd. Not everybody has the strength to apply it. They recognize they love it and they know it. But what it comes down to is, do they have the strength to apply it? And that's what I've learned through my journey with J juice, is the people who I interact with. Some are rah, 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 sis, boom, bah, but when it comes down to it, they don't have the strength for it. And so that's why I say, you guys, when somebody says they're on J juice and you find out through their posts from their daughter or their son or a relative, oh, this person passed away, and someone's like, wasn't she on the J juice? Not everybody has the strength to apply this J juice, because it is an aggressive healing process, but it's necessary. And when you are so full or ridden of cancer, and you're not applying the J juice at the level to where it overwhelms the cancer and you deal with the pain, then you're going to succumb to that aggressive virus on your weak body, because you haven't put the time in to strengthen your body and go through the process. So just acknowledging and saying, oh, I love J juice, and just doing a little cup here, a little cup there, going on and off the protocol as if it was like you have like all this time, it's not enough. When people die, guess who wins out? The wrong chemistry that they've applied to their body. You have to put the time in. These people who are so busy being successful with the biochemistry they have now, good for them. They got the lucky genes, the lucky whatever, but they have to take the time to heal. And if they don't, they're going to end up with a major event where they can't afford to take the time off and heal. It's going to impact their ability to show how successful they are. So those that die allowed their lifestyle and the other wrong chemistries, they've applied the wrong chemistries and they hadn't changed their lifestyle. That's why death happens. It's not from the J juice, because the J juice it's not poisonous. It's life-giving. Okay, so when someone dies and they're on the J juice, it wasn't from the J juice, it was from their prior practices and what they're currently doing that have overshadowed the nutrition and the possibility of the J juice. That's what people have to understand. So nobody dies from the J juice. They die from the ignorance of the indicators and their lack of proper application of the J juice, because they used the wrong chemistry and they didn't change their lifestyle. And so that's what I really, now that I see, because people say stuff, oh yeah, I'm doing the J juice, I'm doing it, and then they're not. And then you see the post on their Facebook and they're just like, oh yeah, I fell and I did this, I did that, la la la, and then they're always just so, I don't know. And so I learned that people pay a lot of lip service, but when it really comes down to it, you see the results of J juice and what people post, what people say, what people comment. And those are the indicators. But even then, people can learn how to parrot me. But in the end, it comes down to, how does it portray in your body? How does it portray in your body? Even if you don't say anything at all, your body gives away what chemistries you're applying to it. Even if you say nothing at all, the body doesn't lie. So that's, so no matter what people say, all this stuff, oh, I'm so healthy, oh, I'm so not healthy, or whatever. I'm so healthy, regardless. I'm well balanced as they're aging and degrading with white hair. I'm well balanced. The body doesn't lie. And then time will only tell how well balanced you are. And so it's not up to me to prove you wrong or right. I'm just giving you guys the indicators, the signs of what a well-balanced person would be. And that first is changing your thought process, which is, hey, indefinite life is possible. Now you got to apply the right chemistry. So you got to be proactive and reactive with the proper chemistry, with the mentality that, yeah, people have the potential to live indefinitely. If you don't have any of those, if you can't even think that people live indefinitely, then you're not well balanced. If you think people should die, then you're not well balanced because you have imbalances in your body that puts you down that trajectory. Life happens is because you have cells that are splitting. You have telomeres and you have cells that are able to divide and split and all that stuff. And then, and then what happens is then you're not applying the right chemistry, malabsorption, and then the elements out there work against you. And then you go back into the ether. And then Amkari says, it's sad that people in my life who were too weak to deal with JJ, fighting cancer, diabetes, gout, Hep C, you have done your part to point to the JJs, but the mindset still believes in the chemo, elderberry. Yeah, and for it's gonna, and here's the thing. What we can do is you can promote doing both. They don't have to do either or. They can do both. They can do their chemo, they can do the elderberry syrup, and do the J juice. Okay, you can, but then you can explain what the chemotherapy and what the elderberry syrup do. They're both. I mean, the chemo is a high amount of elements that cause imbalance, but then stops the programming. But it also causes more mineral depletion. And then the elderberry syrup is highly acidic, and so it'll cause lactic acidosis. So, anyways, but either way, no matter what you say to a person, if they're really if their ears are closed and their eyes are closed, it's like talking to a wall. So, you just kind of cut your loss and say, hey, okay, it's okay, because you know what? It's okay to die. Here's the thing, Amkari. The body purges, there's apoptosis. Apoptosis is when the body naturally purges out weak cells. Okay? And then you are giving your body what it needs to regenerate new cells. So life and death is okay. But do you want to be the one to die? That's why humanity will never, ever die off. And that's why human civilization never, ever died off, because there's always one or two that were the strongest, that learned how to adapt to changing environments, the different extinction events. And they learned how to deal with that. And that's why humanity is still here. And the reason why we have so many people on the planet is because now man has become smart, figured out how to manipulate the elements, but for only so long. They know how to manipulate the body with the vaccines and with the different immunotherapies and the different procedures. But that's still going to work against people at some point. You get a stay of execution, but then you have all these weak bodies and a major virus comes through and decimates those that are weak. That's what happened in the bubonic plague. Okay, when you have 1/3 of the population basically get decimated, those were the elderly and the children and the immunocompromised. Okay, and then guess who was left? The strong were left to then carry the human species forward. And they procreated, yes, but they haven't figured out the right chemistry to prolong, or not prolong, but to live life indefinitely. And so they kept reproducing, and then they figured out the vaccines. Then they figured out different, then biotech, big pharma, Rockefeller medicine, which actually is a lifesaver to humanity. Okay, to give people insurance to see if we can figure this out, because when you have 7 billion people on this planet, somebody's going to figure out the formula to life. And then we have the internet, where we can take other scientists out there, okay, and expound on their findings. But then you realize those that are dead with different protocols and what they deem as healthy aren't necessarily the ones we really need to listen to when it comes to remedies. So when people follow someone like Dr. Sebi, who's not even a doctor, and he was aging and degrading, I don't think that would be a wise person to follow because he's dead. He may have knowledge about certain things that, yeah, okay, you can take, but as far as an actual reaction, as a remedy for your cancer, disease, and chronic illness, I would not use Dr. Sebi's methodologies. Okay? So everybody's cancer, disease, and chronic illness has the ability to be reversed. But you have to apply the right chemistry and you have to deal with the pain. And if you are adverse to both, then yeah, it is a predictable event with indicators coming up any given moment, to where then you're also painted in a corner where you can't eat anything at all. Everything that you eat basically affects you adversely. And then you can't take part in the joy of just all the things that are so fun in our society. I mean, I love eating around Thanksgiving. I love eating everything that is FDA approved or it's a fruit and vegetable. And I have the freedom because guess what? I know how to, I've cleared the pipes. I've strengthened my weaknesses. And I've dealt with the pain, dealt with the upset of homeostasis. I know how to protect myself. And so I'm able to go and eat whatever the hell I want. I have the energy of a 20-year-old. My clarity of thinking, everything is like phenomenal on this protocol. But I put in the time. I didn't just pay it lip service and say, oh yeah, here's Jilly Juice and here's a book, you know, I'm trying to make money on all. No, I actually did the protocol. Okay? And I dealt with the naysayers, I dealt with the media, I dealt with people just making fun of me. And that's part of the pain process, the healing process, is when you put an idea out there and people want to cut your head off for it. But you still stand by your information because you know what's right and you know it works. And you know how society is and their belief system, because I was in that society. I still am. But I see society from a very different point of view now. And so the CB radio world, the nursing world, the medical world, the library world, the law world, the engineering world, all can be used as analogies for the human body. Okay? When you have a really good working radio, it means that you have very, very new parts that have been oiled and primed and taken care of, and there's no RF messing up the communication, and it's grounded correctly, and it's all this stuff. You did all the proper measures. Now you have a really strong radio with a great, clear message that will overshadow anybody else. But if you have a weak radio with crappy parts and so much RF, and you don't have an RF choke, and you have, and it's not grounded correctly, guess what? You have a crappy radio, and you're called a mud duck. The same thing with the body. When you are all full of sludge and RF in your lymph nodes and in your bowels, and you have all these indicators of just stuff going on, like, cancer, disease, chronic illness, diabetes, no different than with the radio, where you have all this frequency, background noise, and you can't even hear the person because all this static. It's the same thing with the human body when it has cancer, disease, and chronic illness. You got static coming out, you got sludge, your communication is not very well, or it's misinterpreted, or it's messed up. Or, everything translates when you don't have the proper things, when you don't have the proper effective processes, business processes. Okay? And so it's about communication. Your antenna to the universe, your antenna in your communication with people and a lot of stuff. And cancer and disease and chronic illness shows you that your antenna has been clouded and messed up. So there are indicators out there that people don't pay attention to. And so now we're just trying to pay attention. Okay? So and it's just like in school, when you don't get good grades, your gut health, your brain health, your health, all that stuff is messed up because you can't even pay attention to the teacher. You can't even hear the teacher because your biochemistry is all messed up. Learning disabilities, all this stuff. And if the teacher's all messed up, they can't get the point across. They're so monotone, they're so this. I mean, it's all the same stuff. Communication is based upon the biochemistry and how it lands and how it's being used. Sumo Lee, I wish I could eat anything I wanted, but I've been in diabetes since I was 7 years old, and now I'm 44 and I can't do anything but fun. Yeah. And you have the ability, if you are willing to put forth the time and the pain and all of that, to address that. But that's something that you're going to have to study as far as my information, my book. Thank you, Kevin. Cancer is a communication problem. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. But yeah, Sumo, you have the ability to address all of that. I'm not going to say reverse because that's going to be up to you. Okay, that's going to be up to you. But the whole J juice is turning all the cancer, disease, and chronic illness industry on its ass and saying that you don't have to end up that way. Just because you had it at 7 years old or at birth or in gestation doesn't mean that that's stuck with you for the rest of your life. You have the ability to change your genetics. Epigenetics is from an upset of homeostasis that impacted your genetics, and it caused a specific outcome called diabetes or any other disease name. But you have the ability to change your genetics if you understand chemistry. And that's all I'm going to say. But yes, Kevin, you're absolutely right. And Kevin did mention that cancer or there's a communication thing, whatever. Kevin's on this. He understands this. And he's right now thinking, as far as the book, how he's going to say this, so where it lands in everybody's world, because it really is. It needs to land in not only the CB radio world, but it needs to land in the teaching world, in the college world, in a company as a CEO to middle management, to an employee, to whatever, because everything is connected. It is all based upon communication. And miscommunication, and then the biochemistry on both parties, and the intention, and the outcome, and the specific measurable results, and all of this. I mean, there's so many factors that go along with communication. But belief systems are really the root cause of why outcomes happen. And if you believe in death, then it won't matter what you do. If you believe people should die, then you don't need to do anything except do what you do now. If you think that people can live indefinitely, then what are you going to do to change your trajectory in life? But if you've already given up, then there's no point in making any changes. And that's kind of how the body works. When there's cells that weak enough to where it's not strong enough to rise to the level of the strong cells right next to them, they'll give up. No matter how strong that cell is right next to them, they're going to give up. And some of you are in that situation where you're married to someone that just won't do the J juice. They're strong, but you see them degrading, but maybe, there's a chance, every single day is a chance for them to change their mind. And it might take an event for them to change their mind. But every single day that you're alive, you have the ability to change your mind and change your trajectory. And that's all J juice is introduced, is that every single minute of the day that you're alive, you have the ability to change your trajectory, to change your life. But you have to understand what life is. And everybody has a different perception of what life is. Some say it only lasts for so long. Others say, you know what, why would I ever want to die? So it's up to you to figure out what your belief system is. And you do have the ability to change it if you want. Not everybody wants to change their belief system, so that's fine. That's why you have autophagy and apoptosis. Because if every cell was strong all the time, we'd all be living forever. But every cell has a choice. Every one of you has a choice. You actually control your cells. To where it's not the cells making a choice for you, you make a choice for your own cells. And then the cells talk, because you're talking to every one of your cells. When I want to poop, I say, body, please make sure you poop this morning. Make sure I wake up at 5 this morning. Make sure I wake up at this time this morning. And guess what? My body does. I mean, it does it naturally because it needs to, but I can control a lot of my cells. And it's how you talk to your cells is what then manifests the outcome. And if you're talking crappy to yourself and to other people, you cast spells on yourselves. So just something to think about. If anything, I'm planting seeds. Right, Kevin. Yes. Also, every minute you have the ability to make sure the right genes are being expressed and the bad genes are being switched off. Yeah. 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 Every minute of the day, you have the ability to control the outcome of your day and the outcome of your life. And that's all we're trying to introduce, that you guys have the ability to do that. And then there are indicators. So even though someone's telling you, okay, you're going to live, or die or whatever, the indicators will let you know. And recognizing those indicators is key. And why we are where we are is because people have ignored the indicators. And they let themselves get worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's through no fault of their own, because they were never given this information. Now that you have this information, now you can't blame anyone but yourself. You have been introduced. You have been introduced to this information. Now you have no excuse. So anyone that knows me, anyone that has met me, anyone that has heard my information in some way, shape, or form, now they have a choice that they did not have before. The ones that never been exposed to me, I understand why they made those choices, and I don't fault them for it. But the ones that have been exposed to me now have the ability to not only study what they already know, but that now they can study my information. And if they still want to go down that trajectory, they've made that choice. It was a conscious choice. It wasn't automatic. It was a conscious choice. And then Kevin goes, also, you can ask your body to wake up at a specific time to the, yeah. Oh yeah, I've done it. I've done it. I said, I wake up at 5 o'clock and it does it. It's crazy. Though I will still have my alarm just in case, but I go to bed early. Like I knew I had to get up at 5 this morning to take my husband to work. But, so I went to bed like around 8. So yeah, so I made, so just understand that everything, the economy and investing and all these different things, everything is based upon indicators. And when you ignore them or you pay attention to them and you act accordingly, will then give you the outcome. Either you get, used to make money or save money. Okay, and you make minerals or you save minerals. But you don't want to lose too many minerals. You don't want to make too many minerals. There's got to be a balance in some way. And it's not just minerals, like it's not even just like money. You can make a whole lot of money and your body go to shit. That's another imbalance. People who make all this money, but yet their body is like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. What if a billionaire and a millionaire could live indefinitely? And then his politics would change. And he'd be making sure this chili juice got out to everybody. And then those that couldn't handle it would die off anyways, and those that could would be strong. And I guess maybe here's the thing, maybe we need to have people who do go through that reproductive cycle. Okay, so we can kind of reset the reproductive cycle. So we guide reproduction carefully. And then we have strong offspring out there. And then those are going to be the ones that work in the steel industry. Those are going to be the ones that work in the service industry. Those are going to be the ones that work in all the different industries, right? Then you have the elite people who are living indefinitely, who are going to be there to have their services rendered to them. Because here's the thing, when you have a world that lives indefinitely, right? You're going to see certain industries fall because there's not going to be enough people. There's not going to be enough people to keep, because there's not gonna be enough people. There's not gonna be enough. We're not gonna need all those different services. So then you have specific things. Let's say you need to have, I don't know, not laundromat. I don't know what kind of services one person who's living indefinitely, who's healed and sealed. Okay, so I can't fix my house by myself, so I'm gonna need to hire a construction worker. And if my husband wasn't around, and I'm going to need someone to fix my roof if something's wrong. So I'll still need to have the construction market, the plumbers. I'll still need, the plumbers, the construction market, and the insurance agents, someone I can call if there's a disaster. I'll still need the garbage man. I'll still need the water utility company. I'll still need the electric company. So for everything that a household needs, there's got to be some kind of infrastructure, some people that are doing that. So everybody, so then becomes like a social or a communist, a social society where everybody who lives indefinitely will have a specific job, and they will be that insurance agent for the rest of their life, catering to the same 500, 600 people in their community. Okay, forever. But then, you know, nobody's making more, nobody's making less, nothing's crazy expensive, so they can go fly on a plane. Then you have the airlines. Who's going to be the pilots, and who's going to be the stewardesses, who are going to be the ones that take the tickets? I mean, it's going to be a major restructuring of society if once people have living indefinitely. So we're going to have a certain, so if we are going to actually have people who live indefinitely, everyone, you know, is going to be catering to us in a lot of ways. And we're going to find a way to corner the market in something and then make money off of those people. So we're going to need a lot of people who are reproducing so we can make money, I guess, right? And then we'll have so much time to hoard it too. So even those that are living indefinitely will have more time than those that are reproducing and having just a very short lifespan. And they're going to be scrambling even faster to try to, you know, to meet us. Because just like, you know, with generations, like the Warren Buffetts, the trust fund babies, it's like one human that is living indefinitely, but they reproduce, but there's so much money and they've invested in the right areas like oil industry and, you know, their dynasties and stuff like that. That's going to be kind of like, you know, the Jilly Juice people, is that we're going to be around long enough to hoard the money if we want to. Okay? Or I don't say hoard, that sounds so pejorative, but we'll be able to save money on a long-term basis because we're going to be around longer than those that are only living 50 or 60 or 70 years, 90 if they're lucky. So you're far richer living indefinitely than you are where you have an expiration date. So the ones that are rich are the ones that are going to be living indefinitely because they have not only their minerals in their body, but they have now the ability physically to save minerals over a longer period of time than someone who only has an expiration date. And yeah, when you are investing, let's say during your time, let's say you have an expiration date and you happen to get in early somewhere and you've invested wisely in real estate, yeah, you can maybe double and triple based upon where you put your money, but it doesn't mean that you listen to all indicators. And some people lose money because they haven't been around long enough to see the patterns. And so they kind of take a gamble, and some people lose, some people win. And so, yeah, that's why you see certain people have a lot of money really quickly because they did get in early. But it doesn't last long because then, you know, markets drop and the economy drops and people lose like a third of their income and all that. But those that live indefinitely will be stable enough to pay off their bills that they've incurred during their time of when they were with cancer disease and chronic illness. And then they'll be able to then figure out all the different indicators, get in early, and save money over a long period of time. And those will be the ones that are going to be rich in our society in the future. And because we're still going to be people who are reproducing, because they're going to reset the reproduction rate. You know, yeah, there'll be a lot of people that will reproduce, and then the kids are going to die off because of the weaknesses, because of a pandemic. It's just going to happen, you guys. It's already there. I mean, just mark my words. The indicators are there that there's going to be another pandemic in the future. Okay? And weak people are not going to be able to sustain it. But the strong people who have strong babies will be able to then survive those extinction events type of thing. And then those will be the ones that the people who are living indefinitely will be then relying on to keep the services going. Because eventually those that live indefinitely will be richer than those because they're here on this earth just accumulating. But we can have it accumulate and then build a better society too. It just depends on what you do with the money. Okay? But those are the different scenarios. Those are the different scenarios. But right now we have 7 billion people to think about and deal with who have all these different issues. And so I'm just introducing this information because I want to infect people with life, not with death. give people the choice. And now that you have a choice, you can't blame anyone but yourself. Dr. Phil gave everybody the choice. He posed it in a very controversial way, kind of misrepresented it because he thought it was just the salt. And that's what they capitalized on, the salt and the waterfalls. But he gave you guys all the choice. And now it's up to you to figure out what you want to do with it. And once you're exposed to this information, you have no one to blame but yourself. Why you ended up where you ended up, if it wasn't what you chose, or if it isn't what you expected. You chose. You've been introduced to this information. You've met me personally. Now it's up to you. And I'm okay with whatever choice you make. I'm not going to make anybody wrong for choosing not to do the J juice, because you made a conscious choice. Regardless of how you characterize it, regardless if you say, oh, it's dangerous, or it's this, or I can't do it, or whatever. It doesn't matter. However you want to pose it and characterize and justify why you made the choice of not doing it. It's autophagy, it's a peptosis, it's a natural way to purge. Okay? So that's why we don't ram this down anybody's throat. We don't make anybody wrong for not doing it. It's it's Earth's natural cleansing process when someone chooses that they would rather die than live. That is okay. Okay? Especially upon all this information. Because I have so much information. So much. Yes, Jill. Once you know, you cannot. I mean, yeah. Because we all want to live, but not all of us are strong enough. But we all want to live. Nobody wants to die today. Nobody wants to die tomorrow. No one wants to die next week. We all want to live, but some people will have the strength to live, and some people won't. Just like the cells. There's some cells that are strong enough to live and to split and regenerate and all that stuff. And there are some cells in your body, when you blow your nose, when you take a poop and pee, when you wash your face, those cells are not strong enough to stay. Okay? And that's okay. You love people for who they are at that moment in time. If they are nice to you and they respect you and they know your boundaries and they, and then if they feel that they can do the protocol and they need your support without blaming you if it doesn't go the way they want, great. And then nobody gets demonized, because life and death is natural. It's supposed to be. But you don't have to be the one to die. Remember, humanity will never go extinct, and the Earth will never die unless, like, the sun explodes, or a big, huge meteor or asteroid comes straight for us, and then we're kind of screwed unless Star Wars can then go and I don't know, hit it and put it on a different trajectory or something. All right. By the way, I got my period today, just so you guys know. I felt it yesterday. I felt the seeds drop and everything. The eggs drop. And no, they're not getting fertilized. So I'm like clockwork now. It's like great. Great. But whatever. It's an insurance policy just in case, I guess, right? That's what Mother Nature's saying. Will there be a time I won't get my period? I don't know. But if I do, if it happens, great. Fine. I don't care. All right, guys. You have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.